Welcome back to another episode of the Spideydude Experience. I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood host and webmaster of Spideydude.com. In this episode, we are going to be covering several issues tonight. We're going to be covering the brand new Silk, issues 85 and 86, 886 or 887 if you're using the legacy numbering of Amazing Spider-Man, and the brand new DeMatteis helmed miniseries Ben Reilly, Spider-Man #1. Hopefully you guys have had a good few weeks since last time we spoke, but we want to give a shout out to our Patreons at patreon.com/Spideydude Network. You got Vinkman, Scott, Jurgen, and Greg. Thank you for your support. If you want to check out more information, we got a Patreon page at patreon.com/Spideydude Network. All of the monies that are raised are, of course, put back into the website and into this show, as well as our other shows here on the Spideydude Radio Network, such as the Spideydude Experience, Make Mine Mayday, Clone Saga Chronicles, Spectacular Radio, the Vogue Rider Variety Hour, and more. Also, ASM Classic Season 2 going to be starting next month, the month of February. Stay tuned for our social medias for more information. But of course, as we get started, we want to make sure that everybody understands that is watching us live, or if you're not watching us live, maybe you're listening to us on the audio editions of our shows, that this show is live recorded, and as such, there may be some references to some visual aids. And please excuse those, as we will try to tell you the story both visually and audibly. Hopefully, you guys have had a good day. I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood webmaster and host of the Spideydude Experience. I'm the executive producer of the network that is a part of it, Spideydude.com. Today, I am joined by our good friend, Silk Fan #1.
Yeah, it's me. Hi.
It is Neil Bogenrider. He is the host of the Bogenrider Variety Hour. You can find that at twitch.tv/QuillSniv. QuillSniv.
Yeah, I took off my headphones to go grab a drink real quick, and it's pouring outside.
Oh yeah. You guys are getting rained. We're not getting rained on yet, I don't think.
Yeah, it's heading down your way in just a couple minutes.
So I need to go probably let my dogs in.
Yeah.
The barking you might hear in the background is in fact Waylon, the unofficial mascot of the Spidey Radio Network. Hello, as usual, to the crew from Matt Auger, and SoFlo says hello, Zach, and everyone. So,
also, we are joined by our good friend from the West Coast, Adam. No, stop!
No, we're not. Let me remove that comment. All right,
hey, everybody.
Hang on.
Nope. All right, Adam Shingle, a California homeless man.
All right.
Yeah, because he's in the state of California, and there's a lot of homeless people there. If you're in fact homeless and listening to this show, there's nothing wrong with being homeless. Just for the record.
Times are tough out there these days.
Yeah.
Times are tough. All right, welcome back once again to Adam. So, like I mentioned at the top, we're going to be covering 4 issues tonight. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Silk. It's not going to be as detailed on Silk as it would be necessarily on the Ben Reilly book. Now, I already know, because I've spoken to him, that he is not going to be too enthused by it, but Neil's going to be doing a rundown. I was going to mention some Marvel Legends stuff. There is some leaks that have occurred. Some speculation. If you have not watched our Marvel Legends episode that we did last week, it was quite fun, especially with Neil playing the role of producer and popping in at random intervals. So, unfortunately, Paul is not here because he has not read the issues yet, and as a result, so he's not been there yet. So, he might jump on here a little bit because we've kind of harassed him a little bit. So, yeah, follow us, of course, live on our various social medias. All right. So, first up, what do you want to do first, Neil? You want to do Silk first? You want to do Silk last? What do you want to do?
Let's put Silk in the middle. I think we should talk about Ben and Reilly first, and I'll let you take the helm on this one because you're the one with the most investment in it.
So am I doing the rundown?
Yeah, you do the recap.
Okay, let me get it open on Comixology right quick. So
I think this is the first time, aside from the one shots that have taken place alongside Beyond, I think this is the first time we've covered more than one series on this show.
yeah, so this is because one of the things that I tried to avoid as much as possible, for those that know mine and Neil's podcasting history, we used to be it used to be just the two of us and Douglas together on Spider Satellites, and when we started launching this, one of the things I didn't want to do was really cover a lot of the satellite books because I didn't feel like that it was productive to, and I didn't want it to be. It would be redundant for us to do the exact same thing that he's doing for that. So, is it just me or is that really loud? Let me turn myself down a little bit. Is that better?
Loud noises. No,
is that better? Okay,
you're better. You're way better. Yeah.
Okay. Come on. Turn sideways. I didn't lock the orientation, did I? I've got the iPad open. So, all right. So, what are your thoughts at the end of the Beyond Saga? And we do need to talk about that. We haven't talked about. I teased that.
I guess the news crew time is beginning. This is a news show, so I'll pull up the article. But
yeah, if you pull up that article, so let me set this up. There is a brand new creative team on Amazing Spider-Man,
a permanent one instead of what we've been the rotating cast we've been getting.
Yeah.
For Beyond.
So, did I hit?
I'm pulling up the article right now.
Yeah, I forgot about the. Thank you for the comment, because that actually.
Yeah. So the new creative team has been announced. Zeb Wells is writing the book, and accompanying him is ASM alumni. Alumni is an understatement. John Romita Jr.
Legendary artist. Legendary artist John Romita Jr.
Yeah, so it's Spider-Man's 60th anniversary, and of course, as a mega corporation, Marvel has to capitalize on it somehow.
Right.
So a brand new #1 is the way to do it, I guess.
Well, other than the 40th, they have done something every single decade, starting with the 30th anniversary.
They did I think wasn't 500 around the 40th anniversry?
I think 500 was around the 40th anniversary. It was 2002, so there was a lot of hype because of the movie. So right. 30th anniversary, you had the 4 30th anniversary specials. They all had the hologram covers.
Mm-hmm.
Some really great stories that came out of that. One of my favorites is that web issue with Howard Mackie writing and Alex Savick drawing with Max, his old agent.
Yeah.
So there's also
really great issue.
So there's also a bunch of preview pages for the first issue. Scott Hanna, instead of Klaus Janson, who has been, I think, his inker on almost every project since he left Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Hanna is now returning, along with Marcio Menez, who was the colorist for ASM 75 and 76 on colors. You can see Peters gets ambushed by... Wait, I guess it just went away. Okay.
Dude, that thing is broken. that widget on Marvel.com, and I hate to disparage Marvel, but that widget is utterly broken. You cannot click on it, especially if you're using a mobile. If you're on mobile, you can't click on it.
It did it again.
It just disappears. So for those that are not watching this live, it's literally, we try to click on it to blow it up to show you, and it just nopes out of there. It's like it doesn't want people to see visually the preview pages. But apparently Digger is back. There's a conversation between Peter and Tombstone.
Yeah.
And one of the things they mention is that Peter's basically on the out and outs with everybody. Like the Avengers are pissed at him
again.
Yeah.
Again, this. Not that I like. This is like the third time he's been on the outs with the Avengers
and the FF.
So.
Yeah.
Again, why does he have to be on the outs with the FF? I don't understand that. That just makes no sense.
Also, apparently, Aunt May's unhappy with him, and like one of the main teasers, which was like released as a page that Romita did on the inside, is "What did Peter do?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that was released on Marvel's Twitter.
Yeah.
What did Peter do? He apparently paid his rent and his utility bill. So it's gonna be an interesting. Yeah, I would just stop trying to do that.
But yeah,
so,
Peter has a okay.
Peter has a conversation with Tombstone. Digger is back. That lovely JMS character that nobody cared about.
White Rabbit back.
You know, as soon as I saw Digger was back, I was like. But of course, with John Romita Jr., it's for me at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
As far as I can tell, like I'm in a very small camp. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
But I'm in a very small minority camp when I say I'm not looking forward to John Romita Jr.
I know you're not, and I understand it. I listen, like his work. Even Vinkman's getting in on it. He goes, Marvel, Zeb Wells and JRJR are taking over ASM. Everyone, JRJR is back. It's. Meanwhile, for Neil, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true though, right? Like,
well, yeah, and I respect the work that JRJR has done over the years on ASM, but I think that like his current portfolio is,
Listen, as long as they keep the legacy numbering on there, I don't care.
Yeah.
How
bold of you to assume they will.
To me, if they keep the legacy numbering, fine. Because like Matt Auger asked, another renumbering and 900 just around the corner. That was kind of my complaint that I said on Twitter. Yeah. I said this on Twitter at Spideydude Radio if you want to follow me.
Subtle.
I said literally, we got what, 6 issues?
Yeah.
6 issues. So at the end of the first arc of this brand new number 1. You're going to be doing a 900th issue. So you're going to probably do a double-sized issue, and if you're sticking with twice a month, not even 3 months later, you're having this big giant 900? Like, you're setting up this new status quo 6 issues before 900.
I guess they figured.
So what's the point of going doing what? Are they going to pull a JMS? And just kind of blow through an anniversary issue? Is Marvel's marketing department really going to let that happen? I don't get it.
I think it's interesting that they... the Beyond must be a really good ending point for this current volume if they're renumbering to... You know what I mean? Like... Because I don't know why they wouldn't just wait until 900 to...
Like, I could have understood, at 75.
Yeah. But apparently, they figure, okay, well, now's the time for us to do a number 1, I guess. Like the Beyond story must, wrap it up in a way that they feel is satisfactory and worth it to reboot. But it's weird to reboot because you got the big anniversary.
Like literally right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, huh?
It's like if ASM when Slot was on the book relaunch just before 700 and Alpha was like the big number 1 relaunch.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Alpha was the big 50th anniversary story.
That was the 50th anniversary gimmick.
That was like the big story for the 50th anniversary, and you even had like. This is where I wish that Paul was here because he'd probably try to defend that hot ass garbage. But that crap was garbage. Garbage.
Even Slot's, as much as I bet it was just damage control, even Slot was like, yeah, Alpha was shit. You don't remember that?
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Again. But, like I say, am I excited for... Listen, Zeb Wells...
He's okay.
He can write. Like, you look and read his stuff from Peter Parker Spider-Man and read his stuff now. He is very much grown as a writer.
Like Hellions and Ant-Man are legit fantastic.
Yeah, like he, that's been recommended to me by Neil.
I never was really good.
Literally, there's been one bad story that he wrote, and everybody seems to praise it, and I've never understood it. I have never understood the love for Shed. Shed to me is, and part of it's the artwork. I don't blame that on Zeb, but just a lot of the it was so creepily written.
I think that's the appeal. I think the appeal for people for that story is just that it is different. It's something very different, and it feels like it has stakes and consequences.
I think part of the appeal is like when we were talking about ASM 82, the hospital issue, and how it's remarkably different from like what you'd expect from traditional ASM. Shed is not like what you'd expect from a generic ASM story.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was one of my big issues was Kane running away like a little bitch from a 12-year-old girl, aka Craven's daughter. Like, that pissed me off. And as a clone fan, I've had a hard time reconciling that element. It wasn't just bad because, like, look, is it a different story on the Lizard than we've ever seen? Yeah, it is. But just because it's different doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And maybe with a different artist, I would have enjoyed it more. Maybe. But I was also incredibly burnt out at that point as a reader, so I think I need to go back and reread it. So maybe that's me.
I kind of get that because like when I read the news that Romita Jr. and Wells were coming on ASM, I'm like, do I want to jump off now? Like, I actually got kind of tempted. Like
But you enjoy doing this show so much, though.
Yeah, I like doing this show, but at the same time, it's like, do I want to waste money on a book that I'm maybe not going to enjoy?
No, I get that. 100% get that.
And is it going monthly? Because I think they said it's only going monthly now, isn't it?
I don't think.
I'd be shocked.
I don't think they've set. We'll find out when the solicits come out.
The solicitations will be coming out next week.
They have.
Next episode we'll talk about solicits.
They have the release date for the new #1, but
it's in April. Yeah.
So we know that it's going to be in the April solicitations. We just don't know anything about it. Zeb Wells did a good Sandman story. I thought it was crap, and another Sandman story that I thought was good back in his Peter Parker days, filling in for Jenkins. Well, he wasn't really filling in for Jenkins. He took over for Jenkins. Jenkins' run on Peter Parker ended with Peter Parker Volume 250. Volume 2, number 50. He had jumped off to go take over for Spectacular and get ready for that launch. And so, but it took about 6 months before that happened. And so there was about 57. I think he wrote through like, I'm doing this off memory. I should have researched it beforehand. He did like 6 issues. He also did like a 2-issue story with the MTV beach spring break story with the Sandman, and it's partly the artwork.
That was not good.
Partly it was the artwork, but it was partly the writing. I was like, nah, this is dumb. It's very like that one's probably one of the most dated Spider-Man stories. Like if you read that now, it's painfully bad.
Didn't he also do Web during Brand New Day?
I'm pretty sure he was one of the Brain Trust. He was one of the initial Brain Trust.
But he was doing amazing. But when he wasn't doing it, he was doing Web.
I think he was doing those character spotlight parts. Yes.
Yeah, because like I remember like this. I love Pepe Larraz, but man, he had a really rough start. I remember that specifically because he did a 2-parter with MJ and Felicia in Web. The last 2 issues.
Yeah, that was bad. Back when Felicia didn't know Peter was Spider-Man and MJ was behaving really weirdly back then. That MTV story one was the one he thought was crap. Venkman says that the Shed character assassinated the Lizard. There wasn't much character there, though. Let's be real. Like, there's not a ton of depth to a Lizard story.
It's like Morbius.
Lizard needs Billy's DNA to try to cure himself. That's the story.
Morbius has more. I had a joke on Twitter that I think character rights franchises should be dissolved from our memories after 30 years, so they can't go into cultural entropy.
Atrophy, yeah. Zeb Wells did write the Lizard story, so deconstructed the Lizard because his own offspring. Billy, my question is how old Billy Connors be? Because I remember him being a teenager. Billy Connors suffered from Franklin Richards syndrome, in that there's never been a consistent age. Mm. Like, if you read the 30th anniversary issue Lizard story, which is really beautifully drawn, mediocre story, but beautifully drawn, Billy is turning like around 11 or 12. But by the time we get to the Clone Saga, Billy has gone back to being like an 8 or 9-year-old. And then we don't see the Lizard for a while until I want to say it wasn't until after the reboot.
Yeah, I think it might be that Jenkins story, maybe.
Yeah, the Lizard Tale, the one drawn by Scott McDaniel, the artwork that was really pretty bad. Where, again, trying to redo the Lizard has never ended well for me. No. Never worked out for me. Like, you know.
It's like Morbius. Morbius has 2 stories, bites and wants to get cured. Lizard also has 2 stories. Wants to get cured.
I know a guy named Kevin Cushing that would disagree with you on the Morbius point, but
that's the well everyone goes back to, though, is what I'm saying.
Very, very much so. In terms of being a Spider-Man story, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's done his own. He's had his own. Stuff.
Yeah, he's had
Spider-Man.
Yeah, 2 different series. The one in the 90s, and then
I'm
that short-lived series that we did on Satellites.
With the Beyond story, where he just bit Ben and he had no characterization outside of the.
No, that was the Kelly Thompson story. I was very disappointed with that.
Yeah.
Oh, he makes He makes a appearance in the Unlimited issue. That's right. Post Clone Saga pre-reboot.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that. So,
all right, but and I think there's like a couple more, and that's it.
All right, so let's move on from the new creative team to Ben Reilly, Spider-Man #1. You want to pull up the cover?
Hang on, yeah. I just need to find it in my photos.
Sounds good. All right, so one second. I need to grab a trade because I'm wondering if this little dialogue box is something that I remember.
Yeah, here's the cover. I think. Hey, Zach, isn't this the? Oh wait, no, Zach can't hear me. That #1 is the '90s #1 lettering, right, for the trade dress?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay.
They removed him. Oh.
Oh wow, the rain's really picking up outside. Holy crap. I think I need to buy more bed sheets. I burned through I rubbed through one of my current ones, so I've only got 1 pair of usable sheets right now.
Well, yeah, it might be time.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, that looks really cool.
All right, I'm not gonna sit there and try to dig through all that.
No, it's okay.
Because what I was trying. Okay, 7. So, we go to the after the cover page, we had the opening splash page where, yeah, okay. So where we have Ben Reilly, Steve Scross, and Dave Stewart at the covers, Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, and Alex Sinclair, Scotty Young, Alex McLeave, Dan Jurgens, and Alex Sinclair did the variant covers. J.M. DeMatteis is the writer, Alex Baldion is the artist, Israel Silva is the colorist, and VC's Joe Garamanga is the letterer.
Isn't it David Baldion?
David Baldion. Did I?
Yeah.
No?
You said Alex.
Sorry, David. David Baldion is the artist. So we cut to years ago where we have Ben Reilly walking the streets, him in a leather jacket and a hoodie, when a mysterious, not a mysterious, when a very familiar individual, flat top, mustached individual, is walking down the street, and he thinks it's Parker. Hey, kid, you didn't hear me calling? So Ben, with his little bit of stubble, Jonah's like asking him what he's doing here. Didn't you just leave for Portland? So Ben says, you've made a mistake. I'm not who you think I am. So we also find out, he's not Parker. So mumbled apologies are occurred, and Ben kind of takes no small pleasure in Jonah's discomfort. So, at one point, Jonah was an important part of his life. So we then cut to Ben Reilly's apartment where he's moping, and Ben's kind of having an existential crisis, as he often did during the Clone Saga. We then get our very 90s style flashback panel or page, where we have elements from Redemption, Lost Years, and ASM 400, all of which are the greatest hits of J.M. DeMatteis. So we basically get a one-page rundown of his entire life. So basically, 5 years ago, he discovered that he was Peter Parker's clone, the bargain basement knockoff made by Miles Warren. So he believed everything he'd known and believed and experienced was all of a lie. So he turned his back on Parker's world, taking his uncle's first name and his aunt's maiden name, his only connection to a past, got on his motorcycle and rode west. Lived about a dozen or 100 lives as he crossed America, made his way to Europe, Asia, but no matter how desperately he tried to make Reilly into a man, instead of a mannequin, he failed. Until he met Janine. Her love was the only thing that seemed to be real in the shallow world he inhabited, but that was eventually lost to him. So, now other things going horribly real. My brother, my fellow clone Kane, whose entire existence was focused on destroying his, and now they're both in jail. So, this takes place shortly after Redemption, but before Peter Parker Spider-Man 75, maybe. There's always been a question of when Redemption takes place, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So then we have a news report going on the TV.
Your boy Carrion escaped from Ravencroft.
And Ravencroft, yes, Malcolm McBride, a.k.a. Carrion, has escaped, and he's taken off. Now, Ben puts on the...
I'm very glad that that Ravencroft has borrowed the revolving door from Arkham Asylum. It just fits so well.
Yeah. So Ben then takes off, goes to fight the good fight, and gets to where Carrion is, and Carrion's getting the upper hand. He's, touching these different people, but he keeps fighting. Malcolm is fighting for control, kind of going back and forth between Carrion and Malcolm. Malcolm then touches Ben's face. Ben then, tells him no, and starts just pounding him into next week. So, Ben then says, what is it, Malcolm? What's hurt you so bad that you had to call Carrion out to protect him? Show me, Malcolm. And that's when we learn about Malcolm's mother passing away and the trauma that occurred that caused him to lash out. So, he needed to release the grief into the world and make the pain go away. If I get a little emotional, I'll explain in a minute. So, Ashley Kafka, the director of the Ravencroft Institute,
Before she became a clone.
Basically says beautifully said, and the two of them start walking around. So, we then see one of Ashley's assistants, Edward Whalen, formerly the man-rat known as Vermin, which is J.R. Fettinger's favorite character of all time, and Dr. Lou. Ooh. And so they kind of go back and forth. Ashley, Ben kind of lashes out and says something really, really mean, saying that you of all people should know that the monster has always come back, which
it's like right to Vermin's face.
Yeah, right to Vermin's face, and we have like the floating head of guilt of Vermin, right there too. So then we cut to a random scene with a woman named Gail and a man named Joshua. They're going back to. She's going back to her place, and turns out that he may or may not be a serial killer. Yeah, serial killer. So we then cut to Ben and Ashley having a conversation. So apparently, Peter told her everything. So she knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man?
I mean, it makes sense a little bit. Child with any bursts his mask off.
Yeah. So Ben takes his mask off, starts having a conversation, and so he goes, I don't need a head shrinker. And Ashley's like, well, how about a friend? And he's like, I don't do friendship. And she goes, we'll see. And kind of sits back going, yeah, he'll be back. So we then cut to the day. Huh?
I said, how edgy.
Yeah. So we cut to the daily grind where Ben is doing his remedial work at the grind, where there's a guy named John who's a little bit socially awkward. So we then
I don't like being in this book.
So Ben and him are having a conversation about how he's weird. He's feels like he's been born in the wrong decade, and so John Diaz is a kind of a regular there, and then we also get a bulletin of the first date murder, quote unquote, that happened in the previous page. Or a couple pages back, we have Shirley kind of talking with Ben, and so Shirley's like, he's more comfortable with you. You seem to be, have a lot in common. So Shirley kind of calls him out, like she's off to do, and basically says no one can live their life walled off. Everybody needs friends. So Ben goes back to his apartment. And he starts dreaming until he feels something creepy crawling on him. Damn roaches! Wait, it's not a roach. It's a scorpion.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun,
and
dun,
then we flip the next page. The Humanity Agenda, Part 1, Grief. So,
real quick. I don't remember Scorpion knowing his secret identity. How did he know where Ben was?
Yeah, I think this is a...
Whatever.
I think it's Dream.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
So then for the letters page, they bring back something that we have not seen since Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, called Arachnotes. So we have a letter from Danny Kazim, who's the editor. We have a letter from J.M. DeMatteis, David Baldeon, and Ezreal Silva, and they show off the different covers. Now, Dan Jurgens did do two covers, one with Brett Breeding, Alex Sinclair, and him doing a cover with Ben kind of leaping out and thwipping. Then there was one based on where they found Dan Jurgens found his original sketch design for his version of the proposed costume, and then Alex McLeave did a really beautiful painted piece, and then Scotty Young did a very similar, almost. I have the Scotty Young shirt on, but I would love to have that as a T-shirt. I'm gonna zoom. I love pinch to zoom here on my iPad.
Back. Let's go, baby.
So I'd love to see that as a T-shirt. If they make that as a T-shirt, I'm buying it.
There you go.
So all three of the covers are really good, or four of the covers. Even I like this one by what's his name? I just blanked.
Steve Scrooge.
Steve Scrooge, thank you. But the cover for next issue,
dude, I like that one. I think that's a good cover.
What's wrong with cover? Scorpion? What's wrong with your face?
that's my main gripe.
Where'd you get your injections?
Scorpion's face always looks like that.
Yeah, but like I don't know.
Doesn't Jurgens have a cover for that?
Yeah, Jurgens also does another cover.
Yeah, you just get that one instead.
So yes, Venkman. If I had the clip, I would start playing "Carry On My Wayward Son," but no. The letterhead for that cover not only goes to the 90s, Neil, but it goes back to the Ditko issues of 1960.
I was asking earlier if the letterhead on the trade dress was the one from when they were launched.
Yes, actually. The number I actually mentioned this on Twitter when that cover first came out. The number 1 actually is directly from the 90s during the Clone Saga. Talk about this one. For your audio listeners, you'll have to go watch the YouTube channel.
Or just look at the cover of the issue.
Or yeah, just look at the cover of the issue. But I've got this.
Well, I mean, you've got part.
Talking about that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually from the 90s. The number 1 thing.
Brought back from the vaults.
Yeah, brought back from the vault. And like the Ben Reilly part. Is directly from the Peter Parker Spider-Man 75. So, or very similar kind of type of style deal. So, all right. So, grades. Adam. What's grade?
I gave it an A.
On the spot.
Okay. Neil, what's your grade?
I gave it an A-.
Okay. You gave it an A-, but you had a lot of negative things to say about the issue. What?
Oh, I did, but I think the art and DeMatteis' characterization of Ben overrode most of my like little nitpicks.
That makes sense. And I also give it an A. I think it was one of my favorite issues of the year so far.
You're just started.
Now, granted, we're only barely in 2022, so we'll see.
I will say though, I think this is going to be probably a J.M. DeMatteis classic. I'm just calling it right now.
Yeah, it's really like Adam, go first and give your thoughts, and then Neil and I'll end it on mine.
So it's a very I don't know what to say. So we're talking about like, oh, this is people like this because it's different, and that's what I like about it. It's very well. It's totally different from what we're getting right now, and it's a welcome change. I don't know. It's very deep. It's very character focused, like Neil said. The characterization is good. It's dense. There's a lot of stuff packed in here, but it doesn't feel like a chore to read it at all.
Right.
It feels pretty good to read. The art is really good. I mean, I don't know. This is DeMatteis' wheelhouse. You know, a lot of the themes are there, using love and compassion and understanding to save the day, that kind of thing. There's a lot of love and care for this, it seems, and then you read the letters in the back, and that's just exemplified tenfold, especially with DeMatteis, of course, because Ben Reilly is his character. I know that, you know, there were other writers during the Clone Saga, but he was the one who seemed to really flesh the character out the most. And then David Baldeón is a super fan. You read his love letter to the character in the back. And Silva and Chasm, they're really into it. It's just it seems like this is going to be, if you're a Ben fan, you're going to love it.
Yeah, it feels like a genuine passion project rather than just something rather than like editorial called up David Mattes and said, "Hey man, we got a slot to fill. You want to do something with it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is listen. They brought in DeMatteis over the years. It's not like this is his first time writing anything.
Yeah.
Spidey related. He's come in and done several. I mean, he's done several Ben Reilly projects. I mean, if you're listening to Clone Saga Chronicles, which you haven't, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and all your favorite podcast catchers. But and eventually it will be here on the YouTube page as well. Stay tuned. You know, he's done a lot of different issues of Spider-Man, or like during Web. When Zeb Wells was writing Web, he did several backups. There were several one-off stories. There were some one-off stories with him and with Kane. So it's not like he hasn't done anything in 25 years.
No, yeah.
But or almost 30. God, almost 30 years. Oh God, I just threw up in my mouth. You know, so he's done things. You know, he did things in the 2000s and even, you know, not much in the 2010s, but. You know, so for him to come back, I think was 700.
That's all I can think of.
Yeah. Did he do? He didn't do anything around Clone Conspiracy, did he? I don't remember.
So. I don't know.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, is there some continuity nitpicks? I got some continuity questions because I don't know, because we've always wondered when does. I've been asked this question multiple times. When does redemption take place? They put it kind of between. You don't know because Peter and MJ never appear in it. So,
well, you see, it's interesting. I think I have the answer.
You just did you just Thanos snap yourself out? What the hell? Yeah. Oh God! All right, continue.
Well, the answers, but
no, that was the answer. It's redacted.
Oh, okay. That was you're making a joke.
Yeah. It's
all right.
Guys, I have a plan. Neil leaves the server.
You figured it out.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, let's go. Hell yeah, brother. I guess I only have like a couple cons. One of them is DeMatteis spends, I think, the first 10 pages putting a little too much exposition dialogue in there. And I was talking with Zach about it, and on one hand, it's a necessity because the Clone Saga is almost 30 years old at this point.
Well, yeah, the thing is, this is too, like, if this is very new reader friendly, I'd argue.
Yeah.
Because of all that in the beginning, but yeah,
it's very on brand with the Clone Saga though too.
Yeah, because
inevitably in that era, no matter what was going on, every issue had a recap, and this was a Mark Grunwald type thing that started with the Grunwald and carried through DeMatteis as well, or not DeMatteis, Tom DeFalco as well. You take one page in the issue and you give a bit of an exposition recap, so that way every issue, which is somebody's first, you can give, and like that's exactly what Adam, I think, his point is making, is that every issue is somebody's first, so we got to make it new reader friendly because there are going to be people that are going to see this online, and you know, people like me who will be like, dude, y'all need to read this. Absolutely, I think it's incredibly new reader friendly.
Well, yeah, but my point is that, like, if you are dyslexic, the first page where Ben is just expositing, and then the page where it cuts to Ben walking into his apartment, like him staring out the window, and like the recap page of what happened during the Clone Saga, it's very dense. And that's not to say it's not to say it's bad. I'm just saying, like, it is a lot of text that kind of.
That's fair. No, yeah,
it kind of reminds. Neil, I don't know if you've read this. It reminds me a lot of the first issue of Kane Scarlet Spider title.
No, yeah, the one where Kane finds Erisley in the.
Yeah, like that. Especially was like that. I just distinctly remember that Dupe Rage spread where it was gorgeously drawn by Stegman. Can we just say that the freaking artwork is freaking ecstatic in this issue?
Oh, I was talking about Stegman and Scarlet Spider. Well, that too, but
both were incredibly good. That's some of my favorite Stegman artwork of all time.
The thing is, too, is the art.
The splash page where Ben's swinging, I think, past the bridge, I think is one of my all-time favorite Ben pages. The coloring is gorgeous.
I am all for that being like our thumbnail, like on our thumbnails or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I'll make this the thumbnail for the audio version.
Yeah, do
it. Yeah, that definitely should be, because I mean it's just that artwork is something to be seen.
Yeah, the thing is,
so
the
good.
artwork's very unique and different, and too like it's very expressive. It's just it's intense. I mean,
I appreciate the subtle things too. I appreciate that Carrion is in the same costume that he was in during the Shrieking storyline. Like that is the costume that he had on. The more stylized modern version during the Shrieking arc in ASM. So I appreciate that, and I loved how, I just love the expressiveness of everybody on the panel. That's like a meme for Neil's meme folder right there.
I think when I was reading X Factor, the Leah Williams run that has been taking place during the Krakoa era, I think Baldian's art was one of the highlights for me because it carried a lot of how the page was laid out and composed.
Yeah. Listen, if we're gonna still get multiple artists on the book with a single writer like we did with Nick Spencer, can we nominate Baldian for ASM?
I'm up for it, sure.
Yeah,
bring him and
here's a controversial opinion. I think Baldian should be the main artist. I know that they're overlapping, and so it would be a little inconvenient to do.
Listen,
there are a lot of main artist contenders for the book. Why Marvel doesn't go with some of these guys, I don't know.
Well, I talked about it on the
Carlos Gomez too.
I talked about it on the Crawl Space podcast, but I was wondering, we're back to the JRJR well for the 5th time. So why not let some of their up and rising talent take the spotlight for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of similar to how bringing back Bagley is not a bad thing.
We got so much new talent that we need to get exposed out there, and so you can follow them.
Me, if you do a mix of bringing somebody like JRJR who can probably do 18 issues a year, let's be real, but give him a break between arcs. Why not? Have a couple of, have Carlos Gomez, have Baldian come in for an arc, and just knock it out of the park. If you're going to do 24 to 36 issues a month, or a month, a year.
If you want, I mean, we can try it.
Oh God, no! Please, no! My wallet cannot handle it.
We'll get to 1,000 a lot quicker that way.
We get to 1,000 in 3 months. Which that would be, other than Marvel Comics 1,000, Spider-Man will be the first one to reach that milestone. In half the time,
assuming it lasts long enough to. Well, it will, but
yeah, they're gonna the marketing department's gonna be there. But like I say, finish your thoughts there, Neil, while I check the weather radar to make sure my dog's not getting rained on.
Yeah, let Waylon in. So I think that DeMatteis kind of needed to have that exposition there in order to kind of catch up old readers who left during the Clone Saga, or in order to establish when this takes place.
Yeah.
And then having to fill new readers in on where Peter and MJ are, what's going on, what Ben does. So on one hand, I understand why he did it, but on the other hand, I think it takes away from letting Baldian tell the story through visuals, especially on the recap page of the Lost Years.
Yeah.
That's what I think. DeMatteis has a wonderful characterization of Ben, where we were talking about this, I think, on the Crawl Space podcast, but Ben's temper is dialed up to 11 and beyond, but I think it was handled much more better here, where Ben has a moment of lashing out and then kind of backs down when he realizes that Carrion's in actual trouble.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of empathy in Ben's voice, and I think DeMatteis does a wonderful job of conveying that, especially when he when he tells Vermin, "Hey, guess what? You're gonna relapse, buddy."
God.
And then he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to." Yeah. I thought that was wonderfully conveyed through Baldian. I'm not sure how I feel about the serial killer subplot. I think I just need to see it expand a bit more before I lay final judgment on it. But just catching up on Ben was kind of the best part of this issue. As far as timeline nitpicks go, like Scorpion knowing who Ben is a little weird, or where Ben lives at least. Like him just, I guess, leaving a Scorpion on the floor for Ben to watch. He just sat there watching him until he woke up.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes.
Oh,
definitely.
That's Paul.
And
hold on.
Okay.
Oh, I'll bring him back in a second.
But yeah, I think DeMatteis has a very strong start here. Honestly, I kind of wish he was taking over ASM instead of Wells, but
that would be.
Oh, dude, him and JRJR together though. Oh, that would be so good.
That would be interesting.
Oh, that would be well, they haven't done anything since Lost Years.
Yeah. That would be cool.
All right.
Hi, everybody.
First of all, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The round of applause.
Thank you.
For the host of the Comic Binge YouTube page.
Yes, sir.
Paul.
Still only one end.
Still only one end. He has not fixed them. It's fine.
Fault. Not my fault.
It's not on the top of my to-do list right now. So.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so what have we done so far?
We're. I was just about to give my thoughts on Ben Reilly, Spider-Man #1.
Have we talked about Zeb and JRJR yet?
Yes.
We have. What are your thoughts?
Neil, I'll let Neil finish, and I'll. All
right, let's finish. Yeah, let's finish. Let's finish the review of Ben Reilly, and then we'll come back to you, Paul, on the.
I just read Ben Reilly too. That's why I'm a little bit later because I read both comics. So
okay.
I'm ready.
Only both. Oh, you sweet summer child! We're talking about 4 comics today.
No. But I'm talking about today's books, though. I read last week's, obviously.
Oh,
but
we're talking about Silk too. So
we're gonna do a little bit on Silk. I haven't read it yet, but we're gonna give Neil the floor
eventually. Yeah,
I didn't read it. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah, sorry, Neil. I didn't know that was part of it.
That was a very last minute edition.
Neil asked very nicely, and Zach obliged him.
So, all right, Neil, finish your thoughts, and then I'll jump in.
No, I'm already done. I've been saying I'm done. I've been saying I'm done for the last 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. So, my thoughts on this. 1, like I mentioned, the artwork is next level. This is great artwork, incredible.
Okay.
I'm gonna get very vulnerable here for a second, though. Today, the day we're recording this, January 19th, was the day 14 years ago that I lost my sister. And getting to read today's issue was a joy. I think I identified with Malcolm McBride more today than I had at any other point. Even though it's been 14 years since I lost my sister, it's very raw and very real for me. And especially on today. Today and my birthday are probably the 2 days that are the hardest. It just happens to be that they're about 3 weeks apart. So, reading this today hit a nerve. And we will have J.M. DeMatteis on the show. I have confirmed the date. I don't know what episode it will debut on. We're gonna pre-record a portion of the show, and then release it whenever the time is right. Probably will be in March, when it will be in your listening ears. So that's a big announcement. But I told him that I thanked him for the issue today as we were confirming the date and time. So I am biased on DeMatteis. I think that's clear if you've ever read or listened to anything that I've ever reviewed here on the internet. DeMatteis is my absolute favorite Spider-Man writer of all time. And he wrote half my first issue. He wrote the backups in the first issue that I ever read. Spectacular 223 was written by Tom DeFalco. The main story, and then the Parker Legacy, the third part of the story that details how Ben gets his name, was in that issue. And so, for somebody like me to come be able to read this issue today, I absolutely adored it. I know I probably have some rose-tinted glasses, but it definitely was awesome to read this story today. And I don't mean to bring everybody down. I'm not trying to get down on this, but I feel like if I didn't acknowledge what today is for me, then I wouldn't be able to properly review this issue. I love the interaction with Ben and Jonah. If you read the Clone Saga, Ben, especially when he's Spider-Man, is very antagonistic towards Jonah. And you kind of get that vibe here. I love the little touches of continuity. I love the one thing that I don't know about is the Ashley Kafka thing. I don't remember her having the identity of Peter revealed to her.
I imagine that DeMatteis will use, because this is essentially just an untold tale. I imagine DeMatteis will use this to kind of lay down that foundation.
I also think this does a really good job of tying it into Beyond as well, by bringing Kafka in and establishing their relationship. To me, having this coming out at the same day as today's issue, that we'll get into in a minute, I think was a genius move by the editorial department, and kudos to them, because you're getting the actual foundations of their relationship. So I think that this is one of the best issues in the last couple of years. Could be one of the best miniseries to hit, in my opinion, since Life Story. So, which I view as the best of the 2010s, of the 20-teens. That's the best miniseries of that decade. So, could be a contender here as well. Paul, your thoughts?
So I just read the comic book, and and I think it's really awesome, Zach, that you have such an emotional tie to this Clone Saga for many different reasons, obviously. And I know very little of your experience that you were discussing this now, making you emotional. But I even from afar, I knew a little bit of it, and I think it's really awesome that you tie that with it. And two things you love are, so it's only natural. Like, when I read books, comics, or listen to music, certain things will always trigger, emotions and things like that with people I love and care about. What's up, Venkman? Venkman, I love you, man. I hope you weren't mad at me, but I was talking about the toys last week. I love you, bro. But in all seriousness, no, Zach, I think it's really cool and awesome that, you tie so much you love to, these things like Spider-Man, and you attach them with your loved ones and things like that. And I think that's really, because that's what art is. It's supposed to kind of enhance our love for life and enhance our love for people and whatever, right? So, I mean, even though this is commercialized art, I get it. Like, I'm not going to be fooled and be like, this is art, right, guys, as I'm drinking my day. Like, this is art.
As I drink my Mountain Dew Spock.
Copyright.
Hold on. Yes, art. No,
you forgot to get the pinky up, though. You gotta get the pinky up.
This is mine. Let's go, baby.
So I just want to say that I think it's really rad that you link it to that, and I think that there's real emotional value there, and I love that. So, and I mean, it's no bullshit here. I don't mean to swear, but I'm just being real with you. I think it's rad.
No, I appreciate that. There's gonna when we finally do the true finale of CSC, one of the topics is going to be, what does the Clone Saga mean to you?
Yeah.
And I've already began writing that monologue, and I may end up having to pre-record it just so that way I can get through it, because it's going to be very emotional. But yeah, no, I've always said that when we finally break down and do that final episode with that crew, that I want it. That's one of the things I want to talk about, and there's a lot of connectivity to that with me, and so. With the Clone Saga and me, and you know, the other thing is that I just love that DeMatteis can get into the psychology of a character and bring you along, and never speak above your head with it.
Yeah, and I think that's all the good artists, whether it be musicians, whatever.
Yeah,
they're able to convey that and never get over your head, but you're always finding your way to connect to it emotionally. And and that's how I always connect with my art. Anyways, it's always emotional, whether it be commercialized art or my wife's stuff, where it's super artsy crap that I don't even understand half the time, you know. But
right.
The thing is, regardless, art is art, whether it's massively commercialized like Spider-Man or Star Wars or whatever, or if it's super artsy fartsy, fanographic stuff, which I just bought today, which I can't wait to read, so
right.
Your emotional value and what you bring into it, it doesn't matter what where it comes from. It matters you have it, as long as you have that connection. That's really important, I think. So but this comic book specifically, I love Jamie DeMatteis like you. He's one of my favorites of I think in comic books. He's so underrated. I feel like, and I think it's so rad. He gives so many channels his time. I see him constantly on Twitter tweeting out interviews he's doing for these channels I never heard of, and he just keeps doing it. And I know some people will be like, you need to have a certain amount of follower count, or a subscriber count, whatever. And I don't get that impression from him. And I just think it's rad. And I just think that he just loves to talk and like discuss and learn or to have people teach is what I'm trying to say. Teach.
Yeah.
He comes off very much off like a teacher to me. I love that about him. And
I think he actually is a professor of writing.
He has writing. He does writing classes, like writing workshops.
But you could tell it's a passion of his, because he oozes out of him just normally. And I hope I can say hi to him when he's on the show. We're going to talk logistics about that whenever it gets time off air, but not. Yeah, but this comic book specifically, I have to say that I think that it was a solid issue. I really liked it. It brought me back to the 90s. I mean, honestly, having the daily grind, that was hilarious. I'm like, man, there you go. They're going back.
Shirley. I miss Shirley and Devin. I wish we gotten Buzz in there. Like, that's the only, like, Devin and Buzz.
Guy, right?
Buzz was the old hippie, yeah, the
old hippie that I'm pretty much the same age as now, probably. Which is really weird. But no, it was a solid issue. I like you was a little weirded out, and like the Kafka thing, I was like, wait a minute, he knows? She knows what? I'm like, that's a little weird. But like you said, it's tied into Beyond, especially after today's issue that came out, which I'm really excited to talk about as well.
Yes.
But which I definitely think that was purposeful. I think they wanted to bring that connection with the two characters, because that's going to be a driving point. I mean, I'm going to say it here right now. I think that they're leaning towards Kafka and Ben not being like lovers, but I think there's going to be some relationship afterwards of like whatever they're doing post Beyond, it'll be together. That's my prediction.
I think it'll be a very platonically intimate relationship. Like, Kafka knows enough about Ben that like even without them being like, romantically involved, she can kind of pick him apart and tell him off.
I kind of view it kind of also in the way that the Edward relationship was with Ashley. I mean, Ashley took a massive amount of time. The Death of Vermin, criminally underrated book.
Oh, fantastic series.
First of all, they need to, especially while Sal is still alive, because Sal is in his 90s, late 80s, early 90s. While he is still alive, they need to collect that run in an omnibus. And I don't get omnibuses.
Me neither.
But I would buy that omnibus tomorrow.
I would.
DeMatteis and Buscema spec. I would
Yes.
find that in a heartbeat. Yeah,
Dude,
God, that's
underrated.
I'm amazed they still haven't collected it yet.
to me.
Child Within.
That's a license. That's a license to print money.
Child Within, baby.
Especially, especially A Child Within and the Death of Harry and I mean, even if you omit which I don't think you should, even if you omit the Maximum Carnage stuff, like
It's still a standout series.
it's a great series, man.
Yeah,
like
but-
God, that whole run was so good.
Dude, the first Maximum Carnage issue of Sal Buscema dude, it's a 9-panel grid, and it's like how he lays it out, so freaking cool.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
because it's
good.
like because not only is it Maximum Carnage, but you're also doing the funeral for Harry, during that story too. I mean, it is, God, yeah. I mean, I saw they've collected Maximum Carnage obviously several times. Like the rest of that run needs to be done, especially with all the stuff with Harry and
Of course.
during the Spencer run, season 1 of the show. But yeah, no, I'm like this was so good, so good. Well, what's your grade officially, Paul?
I'd give it a good solid A minus.
Okay.
I think the
A.
art was a little cartoony for me, but it definitely felt. But again, it's not a detriment necessarily. It's not my favorite style. Not what I would prefer, but it felt very 90s at the same time. So I think that's the
True.
aesthetic they're going
I feel
for.
really bad every time I have like the lowest grade on the show. I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Dude, you're the lowest grade of this
I
book
said A minus too.
is an A minus.
Yeah, I said
So
A minus.
like, yeah, he said A minus. So you guys have the same grade, but again, an A minus book. Like, God, this is so good.
Launching an A minus book, like
A book with the new number 1. Now, granted, it's 1 of 5.
Well, I mean, I think DeMatteis.
Dude, and listen, if they do like a series with Ben Reilly in the present with this team, oh God, this is going to be so good.
I'm not sure what we're going to talk about here. What books we haven't read or what we haven't done or whatever. But
We haven't done the ASM issues yet.
all I gotta say is I'm very excited to talk about. Oh yeah, Silk. Okay, but really quick before we talk about Silk, can I talk about my JR Zeb Wells thing?
Yeah, go ahead and give your thoughts on that, and then we'll jump over to Silk.
Yeah. So really quick, I'm a little surprised. I wanted to ask you guys before I give my thoughts. Is this? I know this is like the team, but my question is this the team for the whole year, or like who's the sub artist underneath them? Because that to me is what I want to know. I know they're billing it as the main team, which is fine, but we all know if it's coming out twice a month or whatever.
I've heard rumors it's going monthly.
That would be interesting.
Which
ASM has gone monthly since I think 1990.
But you know that
no.
means
The last time it was monthly was the JMS run, 2007.
if it goes monthly, I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to get another Spider-Man book. Another Spider-Man book is coming then. There's no way they're going to not sell more.
Yeah, no, I think. Listen, if they bring back Spec, or Peter Parker Spider-Man, or Web of Spider-Man, or no adjective Spider-Man.
That's Miles though. You want to leave that alone.
Is no adjective Spider-Man, Miles?
No, he's Miles Morales, Spider-Man.
It's Miles. Yeah, I thought it was
whatever,
Miles.
same difference, whatever.
But yeah. I mean, listen.
Miles did used to be adjectiveless.
Yeah,
That's true. Okay, all right.
But here, Bob. But I don't want to get too much down a rabbit hole here. But I will say, I've since again brand new day, which I know a lot of you don't like, or as far as what they did, whatever. I do like the format. I've really grown accustomed to that format of getting a story a couple times a month. It is nice. So if it goes monthly, I won't be like, oh, but I will be like a little bummed a little bit. But if it gives me better stories, I'm good. So
I kind of think with the amount of lead time that JRJR probably had,
yeah,
you might get 18 to 24 issues.
I don't think 24. I think here's
18 at least.
I think here's my prediction. My prediction is this. I think there's going to be he's going to be the primary artist. Like I'd say over 12 issues, I think is safe.
Yeah.
I don't think 8. I think it's going to be under 18. I don't think it's going to be like somewhere between 12 and like 16, which is still good. That's great. That's more than any artist out working today could do. Like
the last time we saw somebody do 18 issues in a year was Bagley.
So I think
Ultimate Run.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be some kind of another artist, which I'm really hoping it's someone good. But it sounds like the Gleason idea is out the window at that point. If he's got JR on it, I hope not. But
I think Gleason's going to go and do like Captain America or something because he has a hard on for Captain America.
which I'd be down with. I'd be great. So
and we just got announced like 2 ongoing Cap books. So
yeah, I saw that. So there's the Sam and him. Captain, yeah.
So Steve and Sam are sharing the identity, but they each have their own ongoing now.
That's cool. I think it's cool.
I think it's a way to have cake and eat it.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyways,
it's very similar to Peter and Miles.
Yeah,
you know.
You can have legacy heroes. It's fine. So anyway, and one thing I need to do now, and Neil, answer me this. I'm going to ask you a question. Didn't Zeb do the New Mutants run that you really liked?
No, he did Hellions.
Hellions, that's right. I'm sorry, Hellions.
I have not been able to get into New Mutants at all.
Oh, all right, but Hellions you do like.
Yeah, and I liked his Ant-Man. So
I read a little bit of Ant-Man. I liked it. I read I liked. There's stuff of Zeb I've liked, and there's stuff of Zeb I haven't liked so far.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. So one thing I have to say is that I need to read more of his work in comics in general because I've read stuff I've liked, not liked. I just don't know. I need to get better feel for it. The
problem is that like we rightfully judge him for Shed and all the stuff he did during Brand New Day, but I think the problem is
I like Brand New Day stuff. Some of it.
Yeah, okay. But Zeb has developed a ton as a writer since 2009.
And again, his Beyond issues were good. And today's issue, I can't wait to talk about it too. Yeah. So I mean,
I said this earlier. I did talk smack about Shed. Shed has been, and I have a lot of problems with that story. But I followed Zeb since the beginning. I remember his stuff on Peter Parker. Back in the day, he's been writing Spider-Man for 15 years on and off. So it's not like he's unfamiliar with the character. He's not like Cody Ziegler, who was a complete unknown and has acquitted himself incredibly well.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit.
But I'm down for it. Speaking of Ziegler, I can transition to that. So,
but yeah, I'm interested. I'm a little surprised Zeb is like the premier writer, though. I will say that does surprise me.
I wasn't really, because I thought if they were gonna use someone from this team, I figured it'd be him because he's got
like way less stuff to do this run than the other members of the Beyond.
Yeah, it's obvious because he was prepping for his run afterwards.
Yeah.
So so that should, again, really quickly, I'm just gonna say this here. That should give some credence, in my opinion, anyway, that the Spencer thing was a lot more abrupt. And it did cause them to say, okay, let's get something figured out. So that way Zeb's kind of orchestrating how he wants to be set up. He's propping himself up, essentially, at the end of the series. And so he's helping orchestrate that.
And it looks like he's picking up pieces from the Spencer run with Tombstone and et cetera. So
you see what I'm saying? So I do feel that Spencer and again the marriage, which I still think is okay. By the way, this should give even more credence to the marriage. Who drew the marriage issue? JRJR.
Well, it was Paul Ryan who drew the wedding annual, but Romita Jr. and Savick did the proposal. The
proposal story was by Romita and Savick.
And so I just want to say that for the record. It's interesting. So I would not be shocked. If that's
the last major story with MJ, and the issue with the ASM 50 Volume 2.
So I do think there's going to be a lot. I definitely feel it because Spencer left in such a so abruptly and not completing his things. I think that's why Lowe went to Zeb, because he trusts Zeb. He's worked with him a ton. Zeb came in, and he, like you said, great point. He's developed himself as a writer, and he probably came in, helped orchestrated this Beyond thing, got some great writers involved, and said, "This is what I need to get to this point. So let's get me from this point to that point." and this is what I need to get you all to set me up as. And then therefore, when he takes over with JRJR, again, he didn't know the artist, obviously, I think at that time, probably, but he probably knew I'm going to have some artists with me and I'm going to, or, whatever, but this is going to be my thing at the very end. So we'll see. But I definitely feel that it's going to get probably another artist on the side. But I'll be honest, this Beyond runs, it almost feels like a testing ground for Spider-Man artists. And if this is what they're doing, holy crap, there's some great artists in this run, man.
Yes.
Like, I'm like really impressed.
Use them in the future, please.
Yeah,
I
don't disagree.
Anyway,
all right, so let's all right, let's move on to Silk.
Okay, yeah, we need to pick up the pace. Like we've
been
running for like an hour, I think.
Yeah, that was my bad.
No, it's fine.
All right.
So I'm gonna kind of bang through this really quick.
Okay.
So Silk #1, written by Emily Kim, replacing Marine Gu. Takeshi Miyazawa is still the artist. Ian Herring is still the colorist. So Cindy is kind of in a rut in her life. She's falling behind on social media. Like, she doesn't understand what hashtags are. Her social life is kind of just her and her brother. She's kind of stuck in a rut. And her therapist is suggesting, like, taking a break from being a superhero and focus on Cindy. Basically, two Zoomers break into the Met, and they accidentally unlock, I guess, a casket containing like Korean terracotta soldiers. I'll admit I'm not very well versed in Korean mythology, so some of this is a little going over my head a little bit. I'm hoping to expand on this. But basically, Zoomer 1 gets his essence sucked out, and Cindy gets woken up by Jonah to go investigate and slip by the cops to get a scoop. She finds she finds like this weird demon soldier standing in the corridor, and she gets distracted by the Zoomer, who gets aged up and has his life force sucked out. And the issue ends with I guess the leader of the soldiers saying he needs a lot more life energy to get started. So I know I kind of went through it and I sound a little unenthused, but I give this issue an A. I think one of the main benefits is that the art team is the same, and Emily Kim seems to have a very good grasp on what makes Cindy's relationships really work. It honestly feels like we haven't really... It feels like we just picked up where we left off, to be honest. Not a whole lot has changed, and I think that's for the better. It makes the transition from one writer to another feel very consistent, and I'm very happy that it doesn't feel like too far out of left field. And I think what helps this issue for me is it's not as personal, like, losing a family member on the same day. But one of the reasons I'm so attached to Cindy as a character is that I kind of grew up with her, or she grew up alongside me. And as I'm getting out of college and exploring the kind of rut in my life, I'm kind of just floundering along in terms of social connections. Just kind of going through the motions of my job, and in a lot of ways, I feel like I connect to Cindy a lot more than I'm supposed to. But I feel like Cindy's, I guess, I don't want to say she's a dork, but she's definitely a product of her time, and I relate to that a ton, and her nature, as it were, makes her very endearing to someone like me. I don't really have a whole lot to say because I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but I think that it's kind of interesting that most of Cindy's rogues gallery, at least the new ones, are like Korean or like mystical characters, which kind of separates her a lot from the rest of the Spider family.
Yeah, I think that ties in really well with her character though too, just because of how the elements of the totem element of Spidey do tie in pretty heavily into Cindy's character.
Well, it's not even like totem stuff. It's like a demon cat, like these weird Korean demon statues. I think it's kind of a cool way to distinguish her from the rest of the spiders. Yeah. I also I appreciate that, like, just the foundations of Cindy as a character haven't changed much since the Thompson run. Cindy's relationship with Jonah and her coworkers is very consistent, and I think that does a lot to make me feel like, this is a character who's in a static environment, but is very dynamic herself. And I feel like, and like I said, I have a very strong emotional attachment to a character like Cindy. So this is a really good start for me. For this
really quickly, Neil, I thought it was really rad when you said like, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be that connected to Cindy or not. I'm like, and I think that's rad that you say that only because it's never about if you're supposed to or not supposed to. It's about if you do, right? And that again, that goes back to my whole art thing about like, it's art speaks to everyone differently, right? And I think it's really cool that this comic and this character and how they write her and they put her in situations you identify with, and you're put, even if they're there or not, you still find them. I think that's really cool. It means there's an investment there for you in this character, and I think it's really, really rad that you're kind of so invested in you're seeing things and attaching them. Because that's what I do with all my stuff, whether I'm supposed to or not. I do that constantly with music, movies, comics. It's just, again, art speaks to everyone so differently. I think it's really cool that you're already like, you don't even know if that's the obvious, because there's the obvious things that people want to identify with, but you're getting something out of it that maybe they didn't even intend. And again, that's the beauty of art. I think it's really rad. So I think it's really cool, dude.
Yeah, like I said, I think Cindy accidentally grew up alongside me. Like when she started out, she was like a terrible character, but like when Thompson got a hold of her, I really related to her because I was going through puberty and like learning to grow as a person and gain freedom, like get my own car. And I thought Cindy kind of running back to her safe space, as it were, and learning to accept the consequences of freedom was very in tune by coincidence with the experiences that I was growing up with.
Yeah.
And by the time her first ongoing ended in 2017, I felt I had grown up a ton alongside her, like learning to accept the deal that life had given you, and feeling happy with where you were in life. And again, Maureen Gu kind of took that day in the life aspect, and Cindy was kind of static in her own book, but the world around her was dynamic, and I thought that was kind of cool to see her just finally have a routine that she was invested in. And then by accident again, Cindy finally having established her own identity is kind of figuring out, okay, well now I've fixed everything. Where do I go from here? And again, as someone who has finally finished college and is kind of in the routine of a job now, it's like, well, where do I go? And like you said, like it doesn't matter if like it was by accident or not, but again, Cindy is a character who has grown alongside me, and I take that very personally.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome. Right on, man.
I give it an A.
Boy, nice.
All right, let's talk about ASM. That's what everyone came here for. All right. Shit, where's my iPad?
Yeah, we should mute Zach.
I'll just get the floppy. Hang on.
Zach, you should mute yourself when you go rummage around.
Oh, my bad. I thought I had myself muted.
No,
sorry, got a thunderstorm coming, so the
dog
puppers are freaking out. They want to be in the room with me.
They just stopped raining over where I am, so.
Yeah, no, it's about.
So
there's the radar.
Yeah, it's coming, boy. All right, so let's go through ASM.
All right, so ASM. All right, let me. I'm making some notes.
Who's doing the recap? Is it me or you?
Yeah, you do the recap.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, are you taking notes?
Yeah, I'm taking notes for times to clip for future reference.
Okay.
So
ASM number 85, legacy number 780, or is it? It's 886. Sorry, I was thinking slot times. Written by Cody Ziegler, art by Paco Medina, 7 inkers. Walden Wong, Wayne Foucher, Paco Medina, Andrew Hennessy, Victor Olazaba, and Roberto Poggi, and Espen Grundetjern as the colorist. Gazoon height to myself. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Octopus does the sleep gimmick from the first Raimi film on a security guard, and starts essentially carving a path through Beyond Corporation. He runs into a talking fish from Cat in the Hat, and a room full of sandwiches that can grant wishes, and before eventually getting stopped by Colleen and Misty Knight. Oct smashes them with ease and throws them in a door. Meanwhile, Maxine is dressed like a supervillain now, and Beyond Security is easily thrashed by Doc Ock until Ben arrives and breaks a window and fights Otto. The fight goes on for a little until Ben disables Otto's arms with a magnet gun, and takes the fight outside. He begins thrashing Otto, and he's like, I'm here for a reason. I get results, and I can't be manipulated. And Otto goes, foo, foo, foo. Guess what, you little moron? They picked you because you're easily manipulated. Right. and he gives Ben a hard drive and says, here's all the plot convenience that you'll need to learn that you're here for being manipulated. And he just lets Otto walk away again. Like, come on, man. He's right there.
Yeah, I got a lot of again, our mutual friend Peter had a lot of things to yell at me about that. I'm like, well,
we're back to Superior Spider-Man number 31 again, where Miguel just let Green Goblin walk away.
Yeah.
But Ben tells Ben tells Maxine the drive was destroyed, and Maxine buys the story, and Ben asks, why did you hire me? And Maxine just immediately says, because of your determination and strong will. And Ben, kind of at face value, takes it, but later on he gives Maxine the hard drive and under his mask, saying to clean the mask and don't lose it. And he goes into the bathroom and punches the mirror to see a hollow face in the shattered reflection. So okay,
one that he also recognized from. That's also from his memories.
Yeah, the Beyond Corp, the Beyond Corp calling card.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Paul's read Next Wave. He gets it now.
little bit. It's a little. See, the Next Wave stuff it's not as prevalent in, like, I think in the mythology of Next Wave or of Beyond Corporation. It's more of like a background thing with Next Wave. Because whatever it gets involved to after that, I think is what you're referring to.
Yeah, Captain America: The Mighty Avengers is.
Yeah, because I was expecting more Beyond stuff in Next Wave, and I never got it. But we'll talk about Next Wave a different time, though.
Yeah, we'll do like a little primer episode 0.
Yeah.
So okay, question: did the Mary Jane Black Cat thing come out today, or is that next week?
It comes out next week.
Okay, because like in the letters page for the record, it talks about next week is the two of them.
Yeah,
so
and
I think they moved Ben Reilly around.
Oh yeah,
the weeks.
Yeah, they pushed Ben forward and then pushed MJ and Black Cat back.
Gotcha.
I think. So do we want to do grades before we move on to the next storyline? Because
let's do this one, and then we'll do the recap of the second one. We'll give our grades, and then we'll give the grades, do the recap, and then.
I guess I'll go, and then we'll do Paul, then Adam, then Zach.
Yep.
I gave it a B. Paul, what's your grade?
I'll give it an A.
I mean, you tried. Adam.
A.
All right. Adam's grade's an A. Paul, just a regular A. And then I gave this an A as well.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of a big gulf, I guess.
Neil, yeah, we'll go back to our grades with our reviews after you do the recap of 86. Let's just go ahead and knock the recaps out and be done with it.
Yeah, okay. So ASM 86, written by Zeb Wells, he's back. Speaking of Zeb Wells, Michael Dowling is the penciler, and who's the colorist? Brian Valenza. So Ben is in therapy with Ashley Kafka, and she's kind of telling him to explain himself. And Ben is talking about earlier when he was fighting Hellbomb at First Avenue in St. Mark's Place, and he goes in and accidentally sets fire to the entire building. Well, he doesn't set fire to the entire building, but enough that like 2 floors were lost to fire damage and 3 more to smoke. Support crew injuries. It was just a twisted angle, but people could have been seriously hurt. And actually kind of drills into him, like, what's going on? This isn't like you. And given what we've seen in Ben Reilly, this adds a lot more context to this line. and Ben's kind of had his mind on a lot of things, especially after reading that drive. And 2 floors up, Janine is looking at the drawer where she's kept the drive, and she almost goes into it, and she hesitates and goes back. Meanwhile, Ashley's trying to talk to Ben, and he just says, "No, I'm not going to talk to you. You work for Beyond. I don't trust Beyond right now." And Kafka says, "I don't trust them either, but there's no corporate interference. They're contractually barred from monitoring us. Guess what? They're a mega corporation. They don't care." So Maxine's just listening in on them anyways. And cut back to Janine again. She was threatened by Maxine, saying, "You shouldn't be chaperoned, little lady." And eventually she actually does go reach for the drive. Ben talks about how Otto had completely broken the decryption, had read him his psych eval from Maxine, and Ben kind of realizes they kind of understood him a bit too well. And he says that there's always, it goes with the territory when, and he drifts off, and Kafka says, "When you're a clone." And this kind of catches everyone off guard that Ben says he's not a clone. And
yeah.
Well, no, I think it was I think it was that he told Beyond he so when he says I'm not a clone, and he's basically doing like the what do you mean I'm not Spider-Man? What do you mean I'm Spider-Man? Spider-Man's my twin brother. But but Ashley says that he told the Beyond Corporation after he was brought on about how he was abducted and killed again and again by the Jackal during Clone Conspiracy, before bringing everybody back. And Ben, it's revealed by Ashley that the Beyond Corporation took away the memories of him being the Jackal, or the memories of the Jackal's abuse, and wiped his mind clean. They put like he asked them to do it. So Ashley kind of explains that as clones, their life experiences are enmeshed in a scaffolding of implanted memories. Pull the wrong string and you risk losing all the implants, the basis of your personality. And Ashley gives him another Sonic the Hedgehog ring and says, "I've been trying to use this to stitch your memory back together. Shore up the scaffolding, Beyond be damned." And it's why, but there was risks to it, including like lashing out. But Ben says that's not the reason. But the drive that Otto stole, there was more than just Ben's psych eval on it. There was hundreds of shell companies, almost chaotically diversified. The chaos is a cover. And Ben's like, we've got to protect ourselves. And he reveals that the UFOs weren't, and then Janine presses a button and Ben reels back in pain before a little gun pops out of the ceiling and starts shooting Ben full of tranquilizer darts. Kafka's horrified and is like, "Maxine, you lied to me. Don't do it to him again." Meanwhile, Marcus is coming down to Ben's apartment, and Janine points a kitchen knife at him. But considering how horribly those cut, I don't think he's in any real danger. So Ben's in the mind lab wearing the Winter Soldier helmet, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna Weapon X the hell out of you." And they begin burning holes in Otto's face in terms of the memory. Like they're burning the memories away. In the pressure of what's going on, Maxine kind of absentmindedly lets Marcus go by accident, and by extension Janine. And Ben is reliving I believe it's ASM 175.
No, the 149.
Yeah.
ASM 149.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's an
Or if you're a Clone Saga fan, the Birth of a Spider-Man backups from Power of Responsibility also detail this too.
But there's an instability in the formative memories, and the memories start collapsing. Like you see footage, you see stuff from ASM 122, Amazing Fantasy 15. All the major memories of Ben and Peter's life are collapsing in on themselves, and that's where the issue ends. Next week,
Gorgeous 2-page splash.
yeah, next week, Black Cat and Cap.
Yep. Captain
And
America and Black Cat. Beyond, yeah. So, all right. Paul, what's your thoughts on the first section?
Do you want to do grades first?
Oh, yeah, let's do grades for this right quick.
All right, I'll give this one a plus.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to do B+.
A for me.
Adam's grades an A. I'm going to do an A+. I really like this issue.
The gulf between us is getting wider and wider every issue.
All right, so let's talk first, and I'm going to make a note of this, the timestamp. 135:45 or 136. All right, so all right, we're going to talk first about the details of 887. What'd you like about this issue? What'd you like? Not like. We'll start with Paul.
Because Paul has the most pros, probably.
Yep. As Paul's muted.
So issue 85, I read it kind of this last weekend, and I usually read my comics, digitally, but I read this one, the actual floppy for once, and it was one of those things where I wasn't anticipating the issue. I liked the previous one, but I didn't love it. The issue before this one, and it was fine. Ziegler, I think, has been really good, but I wasn't prepared for how good the art was, and it really stuck out to me. I liked the art from the issue before, and everything was a good issue, solid issue, I guess. Now that I remember the last issue, now I remember it's all right. It all blurs together, but the art, I liked it then. I liked it even more this time, and I was like, damn, like this. Again, I'm terrible with names, but as
Paco Medina,
he really has impressed me. And I have to say, he needs to be doing some Spider-Man stuff because I love his Spider-Man. It looks great. I think Ziegler, I loved Maxine Danger. I thought she looked fantastic as a villain. I loved her costume outfit. Like, Neil, that was a great point you said about how she's dressed as a supervillain finally. And I'm like, yes, she looks really cool and interesting. Like, Maxine Danger, I don't know much about the character. I'm not sure if she's been introduced, if this is her first appearance. But I'm really intrigued by the character a lot. So I'm really digging what they're doing here. I thought it was a really good issue. I thought it was great. I really liked it, for the art reasons, but I really liked it because of where Ben was at the very end. The other things with him and how he's really frustrated about those memories. And how he hits the mirror, and so it looks just like one of his memories in his head. Like, I love that. I thought it was a beautiful touch. And so I think that's why I like this comic so much. Is it's not really I think the whole issue is solid, but how it was wrapped up and how it was kind of going towards a finale of figuring out what's going on with Ben's memories, which we got in this next issue. I thought it was really clever, and I think that's why I gave it an A-. It wasn't the best. It just kind of was floundered a little bit. I felt, but again, that's like nitpicking. I thought it was a pretty solid issue all around, so I gave it an A-. But for the most part, I thought it was great. And again, for a 22-page comic book, it does a lot. And I think the ending really just packs that good punch you need to kind of, propel you into the next issue. And I thought they did a great job doing that. So, I thought this issue was great. And I think Ziegler is a great writer. I think it's evident the fact that in 22 pages, he really, sums up that that last couple pages were fantastic. So, and Paco Medina is great. Get him again. If you're going to talk about a Spider-Man artist,
get him.
That's going to be, spelling JRJR throughout the year. He's got to be on top of that list. He's fantastic.
Yep.
Just give him like one inker though. Don't give him 7.
I thought it was fun. I thought the inking I didn't even notice, to be honest. So I thought
to be fair, I have a very sharp eye for like inks changing. So that was one of my cons. But that I can.
It's always a con for me too, because it's not as noticeable because most everybody's doing digital inks now.
Yeah.
As it used to be when you had actual physical inks on it. So But,
I think
all right.
I think to some degree there's another signature difference, like how thick their lines are. Like when on those last couple pages where you can tell the inker definitely changes. That's when it kind of made me realize, wait a minute, something's not right here.
Yeah. All right, Neil.
Well, one of my cons was that, like, I think Doc Ock again saves the day. We're back to him, constantly being bad, but also like he gets those moments of redemption.
He's he's very anti-hero here.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it. Just because it's happened one time too many over the past however many years since Fresh Start.
Yeah.
But I think the action. Hear what?
The thunder.
No.
Okay.
But I thought it was really good action. I think Ben lashing out at Otto was really, really good. Along with the kind of revelation that I actually thought that, like, it was gonna be like Ben was just like a schmuck and he was being too trusting of Beyond Corp, but like the revelation, how the revelations eventually spiral and what comes as of the revelation of those consequences is very interesting. And I'm wondering how they're going to progress with that. I think this is the first time since the book started I've been like genuinely surprised about what happened, and I'm genuinely curious as to where the book will go from here, especially since we know that Cap and Black Cat are trying to get Peter back into the fight. I'm wondering how those two plot lines are going to intersect eventually, especially since now the implication is that Beyond Corp staged the UFO fight. So
yeah, so that, I mean, again, super excited about that. So Adam, your thoughts real quick?
I totally agree about Paco Medina. Like I said last time, he needs to be on the book yesterday, today, tomorrow, please. Like, this is
make it happen.
This is good art. This is good art. He draws a great Spider-Man. He should
Are we talking just about 85, or are we also doing 86 as a bundle?
I think we're gonna do.
Yeah, we're gonna do 85, and then.
Okay, because I just realized some of my stuff was about 86, but it's mostly about 85. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, he draws a great Spider-Man. He draws all the characters really well, I think. I didn't really notice the ink. I definitely noticed the credits saying that there were 7 different inkers, but when I read it the first time, I didn't really notice it that much. But looking through it again really quick, yeah, there's definitely some differences going on, but I still think that, the art as a whole is really good.
Now, granted, it is helped by Grundit Yearn's colors that, like, the pages are very consistent.
The coloring helps.
Yeah.
The coloring is really good.
It maintains a very solid consistency. Like I said, it was only like the last few pages where, like, the inking was really rushed, where I kind of noticed, and I kind of went back and realized, oh wait, now I see where the 7 inkers were.
Yeah. There's particularly, you can tell in the scene with Otto, where it's just Peter, Ben and Otto.
Yeah.
You can tell there's a difference between the inks, particularly on the Spidey costume.
Yeah.
There and then
circle.
Yeah, between there and then like the when he gets the drive, you can tell that there's a change in inkers, and then you can tell the change in inkers in the last 2 pages as well. So, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we've all kind of agreed that Ziegler is the most he's the most surprising. Yeah. He's the most surprising out of all the writers.
If there's going to be a secondary title, I think he deserves to have it.
Well, he's doing Spider-Punk, so that makes me want to check that out.
Yeah, they announced the Spider-Punk series.
Oh yeah, today. That was today, wasn't it?
And the artist they have for that.
Who's the writer and artist on Spider-Punk? I missed it.
It's Ziegler.
Ziegler's the writer.
So it's Ziegler and Justin Mason.
Dude, that's gonna be a fun book, dude. I had no idea Ziegler's doing Spider-Punk. Hell yes!
Yeah. Yeah, Ziegler, he's really surprising all of us with how well he's written his issues, and I don't know, I liked the Otto and Ben confrontation. I like Ben losing it at the end. I do really like the thematic, black hole face when he punches the mirror.
Dude.
I thought that was really good.
How great is Yeah, I think, and the cover's great too.
Yeah.
We don't talk enough about that to Art Adams, but Art Adams is killing it.
The covers are great for this because, well, they're all by one guy, and they all do a pretty good job of telling you what the issue is going to be about.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I remember listening when I was at work. I was listening to the audio version of the podcast, and Paul was talking about how he wants the interior artists to do the covers. And on one level, I can respect that. But considering how often the artists are swapping places right now, right. I think it's good to have a single united vision on the front.
And that's a great point. That's a great point. And I think that's where it would make more sense. But my other issue with the covers, though, is that when it's really jarring and it doesn't really match the interior, or at least the feel of the comic inside, that's where I have an issue, even more of an issue with. But you bring up a great point. When you have a revolving door of artists like we have on Beyond, having that one consistent artist, but here's the good part, like at least thematically, there is some connective tissue with the covers for the most part. I mean, today's issue and cover wasn't necessarily, is probably the most away from that idea, but still thematically you could make a case for it.
The symbolism of it is,
exactly
but I think having, like, when we have musical chairs artists right now, I think that Arthur Adams is or having one artist do the outside or the exteriors is a good idea.
I agree with that.
But I do understand where you're coming from. Like, I think we're getting Romita Jr. on all the covers going forward. And I think they're kind of addressing your concern in that regard.
So, and really quick before to add more to your fuel of fire here, what's hilarious is what bothered me was back in the JMS days when you had a different artist doing the covers for JRJR. It's like, why? JRJR art is way better than this art on here. Is it Scott J. Campbell or whatever? I don't even remember who it was.
Scott Campbell.
Yeah, get that crap out of here.
You guys should have seen. You guys should have seen me.
See, and I'm not okay. You guys are gonna get me on a rant on J. Scott Campbell. Sorry about taking the phone call. That was my dad calling me to check on me.
No, it's fine.
Adam's got hijacked, by the way. Let Adam finish his thing.
Let him.
Sorry, Adam.
Well, basically, I'll wrap this up just saying that I do want to see more Ziegler Spider-Man.
Spider-Punk!
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that, actually. Now. I have to remember to check it out, because the art looks really good. The art looks like it's going to fit the whole punk aesthetic thing that they were going for with that.
I trust Ziegler, man. I trust Ziegler.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Ziegler has nailed a lot. And again, that kind of leads into my thoughts a little bit here. But I think I am sick of Otto being uber overpowered.
No, he jobs in this issue. Like, it's weird because, like, in the last issue, he blew the
hell out of it's one of those things where, and I get why people like Peter are like, well, he's letting him walk away. I'm like, well, you got to understand.
He just got handed
with the context of today's issue. How much does he remember of fighting Otto?
Right.
And also, he just got thrown like a major psychological curveball by Otto with the flash drive.
Yeah, and so the MagSafe power pack flash drive,
the Adam Sandler click remote.
So I'm down with it. Like, to me, this was definitely a crowd pleaser, and I think the artwork is straight up,
The only worry I have is, like, I know we're all recommending Paco Medina for, like, ASM or like another Spider title. My worry is just how he'll contrast with JRJR, just because Otley and Ramos were a weird couple, and then I just feel like JR and Medina wouldn't, they'd be too contrasting for them to pair together.
It depends on the tone of the story too.
Paul, you're muted.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you try to be respectful. You try talking, it's so.
I'll just start muting you so I have power and control.
Paul, the secret to this podcast is to be an asshole.
No, I try not to be. I can be an asshole if I want to be, but I don't want to be. No, I definitely agree with that. But Zach makes a great point. I think everyone makes great points here. I totally get where Medina and JRJR are so drastic, but I think that's kind of. I'm so used to it at this point with Brand New Day that I don't really want the same thing over, like, similar things. I like for me personally, I like the contrast of having two vastly different artists. If I had Gleason and JRJR just back to back to back to back, it'd be rad. But it's also they're kind of not similar, but they're similar aesthetically a little bit.
Let me see.
Well, when here's the thing with JRJR, it felt like especially during the Mackie, when he was writing with Mackie, and he was doing Peter Parker, and he got brought back. It always felt like that the JRJR issues were more like nighttime stories, and then like when you get towards the end of the Clone Saga and post Clone Saga pre-reboot. Like, those were always, like, the crime noir, more gritty storylines. And then you had, contrasting that in the 90s, you had Mike Ringo, who is very poppy, bubbly artwork, cartoony to a certain degree. Same thing with, back then, Luke Ross. Luke Ross now, far more hyper-realistic, the Deodato type.
Say what you will about Ringo, but he definitely belongs on Fantastic Four, or he belonged on. Fantastic
God,
Four.
yeah, him. I mean,
him and Wade, him and Wade are like one of my
had he not died so young, he would have probably been the definitive, the third definitive, because I think Kirby and Byrne are the two definitive Fantastic Four artists, but I think he would have went down with being like number 3 as a definitive. I mean, he's in a top 5. I would argue, that it's not fantastic. I would bring Stephen Lacey and Andrew Leland in for if I'm going to talk Fantastic Four, but from the Fantastic Cast.
Venkman says I'm sick of Otto saying Dalton superior in the DeMatteis. I like the DeMatteis cast but I'm tired of hearing Dalton superior.
Yeah. I do get a little annoyed. But at least
I'd probably say Dolt is okay, but Jarring and the other two I could do without.
I actually like the DeMatteis cast.
I mean, the DeMatteis cast is okay, but
it's just overused.
It feels like they did it in Superior, and now
so often it became a meme almost.
Well, in Superior it worked because it was Otto being a weirdo and trying to be heroic, and everyone was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" This is
he's, to use some wrestling parlance. I mean, right now Otto is very much a tweener. He's not a heel, but he's not a face either. He's definitely a tweener. He's kind of skirting that line. And, like, I did enjoy the fact that Ben beat the shit out of him. I mean, absolutely beat the tar out of him.
It's weird because, like, he jobbed out to Otto, like, hard in the last issue.
Yeah,
and then Ben just bounces back, like, and he has a gun now. I mean...
Again, it was, like, one of those things where... Ben should job out a little bit to Otto because, again, if when I was operating on the belief that his memories have not been tampered with, the last time he fought Otto was the Aunt May wedding issue in canon because he never fought him during the Clone Saga. So, I mean, other than a brief interaction during the Clone Conspiracy, that's it. He never fought him. Because by the time, we got around to using Otto, it was Peter's storyline going on at the time, and then Otto got jobbed out to Kane. So, it's one of those things where I'm not shocked at how that goes. So, again, I am really of the belief that this is a good issue, and I just think that other than the inking, and I didn't really notice it until you guys pointed it out. It wasn't as prevalent for me, but honestly, but upon rereading it, you start noticing it. At least on the initial read, you don't notice it as much. But let's move on to the damn it, Russian bots. I don't know who I pissed off in Russia, but
who cares?
This is probably the beginning to the Ukraine invasion.
Oh God! All right, so
But
let's get to our final issue review of the episode, which is
ASM 86.
ASM 86, legacy numbering 887.
So I guess the most immediate pro is Michael Dowling. Like he knocked it out of the park on art, especially that double page spread at the end where Ben's just spiraling into memories. I love that.
Dude, that is straight up out of like the 90s TV show when he's like it's like he's falling into a time dilation portal.
Mm-hmm.
Like straight up falling into that time dilation portal.
Neil, do me a favor. What has Dowling done besides this?
I don't. Black Cat.
He did Black. Wait, he did stuff before this too, right? He did the Cravens. Did he do the Craven run?
Yeah, he did the Craven arc.
Okay.
Yes.
The one where Ben goes on his acid trip.
Right. I liked Pachaco, and I also liked this guy. I forgot again. I'm terrible with names.
Dowling.
Dude, the art in this blew me away.
My one complaint on the art is that there's a bit too much reverse shot in terms of panel composition. But I think considering that it's like a tight and closed space and there's only two characters, there's not a whole lot you can do with framing.
Yeah, it very much felt like Ben goes to therapy, but God, that freaking cover though, just really does a great job conveying what's going on in the issue though.
And again, I'm mostly being a nitpicker. I feel like they could have played a bit more like the security footage angle, because like we know Beyond's listening in on them, and I kind of wish once they'd kind of tipped their hand on that Maxine's listening in on them, that like they had done a bit more with it. One of the things this is a weird comparison, but like what I liked about Halo Reach was that like instead of just a normal cinematography that most cutscenes had, they played with like the security cameras and used those to kind of tell the story around Noble Team, and I feel like that could have been a really interesting angle to use for this issue, especially because we know that Beyond Corp is now listening in on them. I don't know.
I have a lot to say about this comic, so I want to wait. Wait my turn.
Adam.
Oh, sorry.
Or go ahead and finish, Neil. I'm sorry.
But as far as plot developments go, I think this issue does a really good job of recontextualizing a lot of stuff we already know, and and it kind of confirms a lot of stuff we kind of already inferred for ourselves, like the UFOs and what Beyond was doing. But like, there's some stuff that genuinely threw me for a curveball, and I mentioned earlier though, like we have the upcoming plots with Cap and Felicia. And I'm kind of wondering how Ben's like Beyond conditioning and Peter's recovery are going to intersect, and how they're going to meet up now that Beyond Corp has basically fried their clone.
Yeah,
I think that's a very interesting dynamic, or a very interesting hook that I wasn't prepared for.
This is a good like the twist of this is, I think, a really good twist, and it's also kind of using the existing continuity to advance the plot. So I'm appreciative of that. Adam, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was great. This is one of the best issues of this so far. Everything came to a head. This is like the mid-season finale. If like Wells is the showrunner, if we're doing like TV show analogies, and Wells is the
everything
showrunner,
to new season. Sorry,
I mean, you're not wrong.
And this is like the big mid-season finale where we finally get answers, and we're going into the second half. Everything came to a head,
which makes sense given that Wells' background on Robot Chicken.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's more of a comedy show.
Wells did Robot Chicken, huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a writer. He's been a writer on Robot Chicken.
He also did Superman. He also did Supermansion.
I think I remember that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's very, it's engaging. It's fast paced. Everything comes to a head. We learn. We get answers. Okay, why is Ben acting weird? Well, he's been acting weird, and his whole memory deal is because they messed with his head, and we get confirmation of the UFOs thing, which we all kind of guessed. We could infer that was happening, but we get the confirmation, so that's good.
Sorry.
I mean, it works.
Yeah, it works. I didn't even think about like, oh, he's giving Janine the hard drive and the mask. I was not thinking that at all from the last issue, but then that reveal is kind of cool. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. the art is really good. That splash page in particular at the end is really cool. Yeah, I don't. It's a thrill ride from start to finish. It starts off very, the therapy session thing starts off kind of like just kind of casual and everything, but it ramps up, and I'm kind of like, if I was a little anxious about Wells coming on to the main book after this is done, this kind of makes me a little more at ease about it, because this was really good. So we'll see what happens, I guess, with the rest of it.
It feels like that Ben's psyche is going like this.
Yeah. Which seemed like that was maybe going to happen, I guess, just based on all the little preview things and the solicits and this cover and.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting to see how this all plays out, and the whole thing with the last issue where they say the solicit said something like, "Oh, you won't be rooting for who you think you want to be rooting for." So that's going to be interesting, I think, going forward.
I mostly kind of take solicits these days with a grain of salt, just because they kind of lie.
Yeah. Well,
they should lie.
They either lie or they're really vague.
But I'm not saying they shouldn't lie, Paul. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like what we take away from them is like gospel is bunk, because we know they're just pulling our leg for.
I do think, though, that if that solicit is true for the last issue of this, it will be interesting to see what they mean by that.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to go back and look at some of these. Some of these, issues as well.
Yeah.
So, Paul, your thoughts?
All right. So I want to make this very clear that I've been more impressed with Zeb Wells in this arc of Beyond Comics. I liked the first couple issues he did with Gleason. And I like this Brand New Day comics that he did. The initial the interdimensional thing I thought was really fun. I need to go back and reread those. I might go back and reread a lot of Zeb Wells stuff, to be honest. But as far as this particular issue went, I read this right before we went on, or I came on the show, and I knew Wells wrote it, but I didn't really think anything of it. And immediately the art jumped out at me right away. And one of the things that I have to say that, we talked about, Pacheco being, JRJR's kind of spelling artist. I definitely feel that Dowling is different enough where I could totally see JRJR and Dowling going back and forth, and it totally working, because Dowling's aesthetic's a lot more realistic, and I love it. I love, and this, let me just, put this out there. I've been studying how to write comics for the last year very extensively, through my own personal ways and also reading other people's ways. And one of the things that I is very misunderstood and totally underrated is the fact that when you're doing comic books, especially superhero comic books, you have to make things interesting, not just when they're going pow, 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 but when they're talking. Mm-hmm. That is a true good comic book artist. Or I should say storyteller. When you're able to convey and make things interesting, when people are just sitting down talking, that's when you know you've done something good. And that's when you know you've, I think, made it as an artist in the industry, or not even the industry, but in the medium itself. Because obviously the industry, just because people are successful doesn't mean they're not, you know what I'm saying. It's a whole different thing. But Dowling and Zeb are so good in this. And I got to give a lot of credit mostly to Dowling, because how much action is going on in this comic, really? Not a lot. He takes on Mad Bomb in the very beginning, which is cool. It's fun, a little punchy. It's mostly Ben and Kafka. Yeah. They're just talking to each other, and the close-ups of the faces. This is to me the medium of comic books is a great example of how powerful the medium is. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or anything and say this issues like the best comic of the year right now or anything. I mean, it's early, but you know what I mean. it's not that, but to me, this is a fantastic example of what the comic book medium can do, because how well does Dowling do the faces here? And you convey the emotion of Ben. It's beautiful. I mean, there's so much great stuff here. And I when you talked about the Neil, when the positioning of like the different point of views of like the same panels, whatever, I love it. I thought it was great. It really added the tension that they're building towards this. And I feel that was, again, when Janine is sitting down and looking at the dresser, okay, there's something going on there. Those 3 panels on page 7, it only adds the tension that what she's thinking about and what's in there.
No, I like the Janine panels. I'm talking more about the Ben and Kafka stuff.
I love that stuff too, though, because again, this is great storytelling, because the emotion is there in the faces and the way he's turning and the way she, there's a couple nitpicks I'd say more of Kafka than I'd say of Ben. Ben, I think, looks perfect. And
like the panel where what is it? Where
page 9 is probably my biggest criticism. Her face is it's not very. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Where it's the page. My nitpick is where the page where Ben falls over in the chair and Kafka has like the Gal Gadot face, which is going, Kal-El, no. Like she looks fucking bored.
I don't mind as much because again, this is where I feel, because facial expressions, I think are so hard and so underrated in artists.
Especially for Dowling is a very hyper realistic artist, so it's very hard. I'm not saying that to dunk on him. I'm mostly just saying like there's a couple. This is also in the Craven arc where like Ben just has like a kind of bored face whenever he's talking.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. But and I think you're right to an extent, because even on page 9 of the last 2 panels of Kafka, they're not perfect. But again, to me, I'm looking at everything too. The way it's up close to far away, it's a medium shot to close-up shot. These are all great examples, and the pacing. That's the key of this comic book. The pacing, when you're only doing there's nothing going on except for talking for like 20 pages of this book, and you're just like, oh my god, what's going on? And you're so hooked in. At least I was, and I think we all were for the most part. And any Spider-Man fan, I think, would read this and go, yeah, it was a page turner because of the pacing of the art and the way he told the story of all this heavy dialogue. So this to me is an A+ issue, because the dialogue was great, the storytelling was great, the art was great. This is a fantastic issue. This is definitely a highlight of the Beyond arc. If not, to me, this and the Gleason issue that he did, I think they're up there.
Right?
I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Totally.
This is fantastic, and I think that, to me, again, if you want to talk about the medium of comic books, I think this is a great example of what the comic book medium is so great at, and people don't really give enough credit for. Because they think of comic books, they think of like, again, this is not artsy fartsy, but they think of artsy fartsy stuff where it's like, either avant-garde or it's like super, Ghost World, where it's like, dialogue heavy, and it's like this, but it's all like super, ridiculous and funny and comedic. The drama in this superhero commercialized comic book is so good. I give a lot of credit to both, Dowling, I think, does all the heavy lifting, but Zeb does a great job of capturing all their voices and doing a great job of conveying these artists or this story so well that it gives me, like you said, Adam, this gives me a lot more confidence for the John Romita Jr. series. I don't know if this was purposeful as far as the announcement and this issue.
Right.
This definitely felt like, oh man, like Zeb, he's kind of learned some things. I know, and you again brought up what you get, Neil. You made up some great points today. Honestly, kudos to you, man. You did some great job today. Talking about Zeb Wells developing as a writer, I do think it's really cool if you think about it. That again, I don't think he was bad when he wrote Spider-Man back in the day at Brownie Day 9 years ago, but to bring someone back as a head writer of Spider-Man that didn't necessarily leave a dramatic imprint on the character. Right. Again, not saying I don't love Shed either. I don't think it's as terrible as you guys all think it is, but it's not great. I'm
indifferent to Shed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I have problems with Shed that I think, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's not just the lizard elements of that. I think the first part with like Kane and Anna Craven was it.
It's been that was good. That was good. It's been a while since I've read that, and again, I'm going to reread everything because I want to get prepared mentally for Zeb's run.
I timed that wrong, but
no, I thought you did it good.
Did, but
no, I thought you did good. No, but so again, I'm going on and on, but I told you I got really. This is just me reading the issue for the first time. I was blown away how good this was. You can't underestimate the fact that this is a dialogue-driven story, and we all pretty much loved it. Even some of you liked it a lot too. So I mean, this just shows you the power of what this team can do. I definitely think Dowling and John Romita Jr., if not Paco, Medina, they should all work together. That to me would be a dream team. I think that'd be a phenomenal Spider-Man team. But if I had to do two, I would say Dowling, John Romita Jr. That's the team right there. I think they're very different, but they're also they're so different that I'm getting a little bit, my peanut butter and chocolate together. And I think this is great. And I think this is a great issue. I think Zeb, let me finish what I was going to say about Zeb. This is where I was going with it. It's really cool that they're going back to Zeb because he's developed as a writer. And I don't think they do that enough at least in the mainstream comic books. They don't really develop writers when someone doesn't set the world on fire like Zeb, but he definitely, he obviously established himself as a quality writer, that they went back to him and said, okay, why don't you have another shot? I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it goes to show that they're willing to develop and say, okay, let's have another run. Let's give another shot.
This is where, and it goes into where I'm at now. This is where you need a secondary title to develop and let guys write and develop their craft. I think having a Spec or a Friendly Neighborhood or Web of or whatever.
Not W period E period B period.
Not the Disney Parks tie-in web of Spider-Man, but Web of Spider-Man. Something that takes place that's in continuity, but it's not. Delves into some of the psychology of the character and let these guys because that's the thing. Think about it. Howard Mackie had a 10 or 8-year run on Spider-Man. He started in Web. He jumped over to Peter Parker. Then he got given the main gig. He slowly built himself up. Same thing with DeMatteis. DeMatteis started off on Marvel Team Up. Yeah, and then he got to do Kraven's Last Hunt. Then he got to do Spectacular with following Jerry Conway. Jerry Conway's run on Spectacular was a definitive run on Spectacular. That's another one that era needs to be reprinted because that era of Web and Spectacular is some really good stuff. Yeah, they started to do that. Web and Spectacular justified Web's existence. To me, that is that run. To me, is the definitive run of Web because Web never had a true blue definitive run. But when Conway was there, and it tied in so much to Spec, it made it worth the purchase. Right. And so right now, Marvel is in a very weird era where there's a lot of guys and gals that are coming up that grew up in that 90s era of comics, and they're starting to now be the writers. And they're having to learn the generational gap that has existed over the last 15 years has slowly but surely started to rear its head. Because think about it. You had the 80s era of Stern and DeFalco and that group go all the way through the 90s, then Howard Mackie. And then it took bringing in an outsider with JMS. And then you started bringing all these other people in with Brand New Day. Guys like Bob Gale and the like. Now the young guys the young guns are finally starting to get their chance to flex their muscles, and so it's really interesting to see. And so I think having that secondary title where you can do all the big stuff with ASM and let them have some distinction between the two. I think they tried to do that with Friendly Neighborhood, and I don't know if they succeeded because that story never grabbed me. But I would like to see that kind of go back to that 90s style where there is a definitive direction for the title, and they do interact, they do intersect, but they don't have to, like, everything doesn't have to tie in. You can have Peter do his adventures, with,
Can I really quickly? Can I just, when you're talking about they kind of briefly went back to the idea with like Spec and Friendly Neighborhood with Tom Taylor and with Zdarsky, it was mixed results. But
Yeah.
I also think they were maybe experimenting a little bit. But I also think Zdarsky, and I think I love to kind of talk about both those series at one day, kind of at length with us. I've been buying those in trade right now because I've been picking up ASM in trade, or ASM in all single issues again, and I'm getting all the other peripheral stuff in trade just because I'm like I have a decent run of ASM now. I say decent for me, but anyway. I will say it's funny because those it felt like everyone did their own thing and was given autonomy, which is cool, but it also kind of hurt the titles a little bit. But they're also responsible, in my opinion, for delivering maybe some of the best Spider-Man comics in the last 20 years. Like,
yeah. Listen, the friendly neighbor, or not friendly neighbor, Spec. Zdarsky's Spec is very hit and miss with me.
Absolutely, same here. Yep.
The meta story is, it frankly, I never liked it, but there was issues or like 3-issue arcs, and Neil can attest to this because we were reviewing this on Crawlspace time. There was you're right, there was some really great work that was done during that era. But to talk specifically about the issue at hand, artwork's incredible. It worked for this issue. The emotions that are conveyed, especially on Ashley's face, the relationship between this and the Ben Reilly issue, especially today, reading both of these today is almost makes the Ben Reilly mini worth it, because it gives a little bit more of their backstory. And
I was saying earlier, like, recontextualization was a big part of this issue, and this combined with the Ben Reilly issue does a lot to recontextualize the relationship between Ben and
exactly.
Ashley.
And I again, this also, one of the big questions we've had is how does this tie into the rest of the Ben Reilly narrative post-resurrection? And it feels like what's happening here is they've clearly seen that there was an error that was done.
Yeah.
And that they are going to try to rebuild Ben Reilly's character here. And hopefully, who knows if JMD gives any notes to anybody. But if you're going to bring in and get to the essential bare elements of the character, this also explains why we haven't seen Kane today. But as things were kind of going, right? Like there was some creepiness, and then of course the splash page was straight up. I mean, that to me was like classic 90s time dilation portal type thing. We're gonna get into some psychology next issue, and I am in. I'm in. Give it to me, in my veins. Now, we're going to have probably a Peter side quest for the next couple of parts, but who knows? Like man, the stuff with Janine. Now, Janine is no longer just arm candy. She's actually a plot device. That was the other thing. They're actually giving something for her to do. Now bringing her in is worth it. My only frustration is that we took this long to get here. We're over at the halfway point, and I get what you guys are saying about it being the mid-season finale. It makes sense.
We wasted the first half of this storyline. I'm going to be honest.
One thing I want to say,
you could have eliminated some of the issues. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I want to say really quick is the Janine thing is interesting because to me, in the first half, in the first few issues, it seemed to me like Janine kind of knew something that this was all too good to be true. But then all of a sudden, in the past couple issues, she seems all in. It's like she didn't really care anymore. But now, you're right, Zach. Now she actually is more proactive, and she's like, oh, okay, This is bad.
She was very reactive as a character in the first few issues. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just thought it was weird. It seemed to me like she knew something was up, but then she just kind of like, she's like, okay, well, whatever. But now
the trust in Ben, and I think that was also, the emotional manipulation of her, of how they manipulated her as well as Ben, and used Ben to manipulate her as well. If they were manipulating each other because of Beyond's actions, and so I understand the slow burn of that element, but like you could have eliminated like 2 or 3 or 4 of these issues. In the build-up.
Like a couple of them, but I mean, like at the same time,
the Morbius issues in particular, probably you could have eliminated.
Maybe, sure. I mean, if you want to get down to it, I mean, you could eliminate the issue where you focus on Peter too. I mean, you could if you wanted to like chew the fat off this thing, of course. But I mean, I think I'm going to look at it a little bit differently. I'm going to look at it that I feel that they need to build up the Beyond threat more, because the thing is, like, again, for someone like me, Neil, and I haven't read the other stuff for Mighty Avengers. I only read Next Wave thanks to you. You made me read it, which I'm glad I did, by the way. But I don't know anything about the threat of Beyond, and now we know that Ben's kind of in over his head, and he's going to need some help. That's why you have the Misty Knight and the Dragon. You need those issues to explain and build that up with the Morbius when he shows up. So I don't feel it's a waste necessarily. Yeah, you could trim. This is comics, man. You could trim everything, especially this stuff. You could trim everything, to a T. But the thing is, I feel that they're not wasting this stuff. They're definitely developing, and I feel you need to do that, especially for someone like me, because again, we got to remember, not everyone's like us and will like want to reread all these comics or know this material so well. Right. They need to learn with it. So again, every comic is someone's first. Every series is someone's first. Let's not forget that. And no, there is some expository stuff or backtracking. You have to kind of go back and feed it back into people and not play dumb, but kind of just slow burn it a little bit so people kind of know and figure things out. I don't mind the slow burn as long as it has a good payoff, which I think we're getting now.
Yeah, I again, this one, and I gave it an A+ for the record.
Did you though? I know.
But giving it an A+ because it honestly is like, okay, now things are starting to build up. Because again, and like I said with the first couple issues, it felt like we were coming in at the middle of the story, and now it's like, okay, now we're getting into the depths. Yeah. And I've appreciated how they've been able to incorporate the modern world of Peter Parker into Ben Reilly. And so that was kind of what they've done contextually in with this. I'm really fascinated to see where we go from it. Really fascinated to see how Ben comes out on the other side. Does he revert back to a villainous tendency? Does he, go full heel turn? What's going to happen? Does he crawl out from the depths? Does that core memory of Ben that Peter was having, flashbacks of? Is it, how is this all going to tie? Like, now you've set up all this stuff. There's been a lot of setup. Now we're at part 12. Well, now we got 6 issues to really wrap this thing up and make it make sense. And yeah, we got a couple of Bay issues and the Mary Jane and MJ stuff. You got to read the tie-ins. I mean, they keep telling us read the tie-ins. Well, for the most part, all the tie-ins have worked. So we'll see what happens and go from there. So that kind of completes the episode. I mean, is anybody any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? If you got any comments, leave it down below, and we'll read them before we head out. But yeah, that is the review of ASM 86. If you're watching the clip version of this in the future,
I'm proud of you, by the way.
If you're watching the clip version of this, then watch the full episode here on the channel as well. So check out the
watch the clips,
full episodes of Spidey Experience, of course. Watch all the clips.
I gotta say, like, I do definitely think that this is going to be we're heading down a great road here, and I think with Dowling, this Dowling issue is so good. I just can't stop praising it. The art is incredible. put that guy on Daredevil, put that guy on Moon Knight, put that guy on any a Luke Cage book.
I'm happy with the art team we have on Moon Knight so far. So
listen. I'm not Moon Knight. That's a whole different thing. But I freaking love Moon Knight series. And again, Neil, me and you have been on that series from day one. In fact, I was already picking it up before, but you made me go and seek it out and read it.
I got McKay and Capuccio to like my tweet. So
it's a great series. But no, I think Dowling is a great Spider-Man artist. I think he's fantastic, and I think that he fits the title perfectly. And I'm really excited to see where he goes. And I meant to say this. I meant to say this last week. It's not like super off topic, but for my 40th birthday, my wife got me a PS5, and
oh, dude, I am so jealous, man. You got a PS5. Dude.
I got to strut a little bit, only because I turned 40. I'm an old ass man now. So, but that being said, I am excited because I get to play Miles Morales. Because you, like me, Zach, I was waiting to get a PS5 to play Miles. I'm like, nah. I want to play my PS4. I want to play my PS5. I want to get the great graphics. And my wife got me the Ultimate Edition. Well, she got me the GameStop bundle. So
nice.
It was so I got the Premier Edition. So I got Spider-Man Remastered. And
nice.
So I'm super excited.
With that unfortunate remaster.
Which I talked with my buddy Gerard, former member of the network, former co-host of Cologne Saga Chronicles, because he's had a PS5 since launch. Okay, he got the Ultimate Edition, and he told me, he said, "Look, yes, in stills it does not look good, but when you play it in the game."
Fair enough.
It makes things far more fluid.
That's what my friend told me too. He told me, my friend Chris Clout, Comic Binge co-host. We have a show coming on tomorrow, by the way. I'm excited. Batgirl Year One. Whoop whoop. Marcos Martin.
Dude, I should have had you. I should have reached out to Batgirl, the Oracle host, Stella, for that.
Maybe I can get her on tomorrow. Still, maybe talk to her. And really quick to talk about Moon Knight. That the trailer just dropped. I just got these today. I'm so excited. Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes!
The Epic. Okay, so for our audio listeners, the Epic Collection. He's holding the Moon Knight Epic Collections up.
Yeah, and so these were out of print for a long time. They just reprinted them, and so volumes 1 and 2 of the classic Moon Knight run. I read digitally most of these back when they were released digitally, but I got them physical now. This one, the first one, is all a bunch of team up premiere issues. Yeah. Not the greatest. It's skippable, but it also contains the first 5 issues of the actual series, which are solid. But this is the crazy nut stuff that But I have a bunch of other. I have almost a complete run of Moon Knight, the single issue comics from almost all of them. I had at one point I think 2. No, I think I still have 2 copies of issue 1 of Moon Knight from the 1970s series.
Speaking of Marvel Legends, I have the modern take on Moon Knight. That's probably going to get.
Too.
I'm probably going to sell this one.
I got this too, by the way.
Oh, nice! No, it's not Spider-Man.
That wasn't good.
We'll talk about it. There was an off-topic question by Vinkman. If Pi eats spinach, what does Neil eat or drink for extra energy?
The souls of my enemies and energy.
Wasn't it? Were you drinking root beer earlier?
No, it's Pib.
He was, Mr. Which, how in the hell? Hang on. I got it. How in the can you drink Mr. Pibb? What the hell, dude? You are in Texas, the home of Dr. Pepper. How in the can you drink Mr. Pibb?
Dude, let him be a baller, dude. He wants to do his thing. No.
That is anti-Texan of him.
I kind of like it.
This is Texas genocide.
Sorry, I'm not even a huge Dr. Pepper fan, okay? But you know who would be disappointed in you, Neil, if she were awake right now? My wife.
That's too bad.
No, I'm just giving you hell. So
I'm not supposed to react to that. She's not my dietitian. I mean,
I know she's a big Dr. Pepper fan. So all right, here we go. We're gonna wrap up this episode. Thanks for watching. And with that, we'll see you guys next time here on the Spideydude Experience. I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood host and webmaster of Spidey-Dude.com. You can follow us on our social medias at Spideydude Radio, at Spideydude Network, at Spideydude Radio Network on YouTube, Facebook at Spideydude Network, as well as Instagram. Twitter is at Spideydude Radio. Our voicemail line, if you want your voice heard on the show, you can always leave us a voicemail at 818-925-6631. That is the voicemail line. And once again, we want to thank our Patreons at patreon.com/Spideydude Network. Thanks to Vinkman, Scott, and Jurgen. You guys have certainly helped out a lot this past year in terms of helping with the Patreon. With your Patreon subscriptions. Got some exclusive things coming soon, like the review, the commentaries for the cartoons. We've got more exclusive content with the voices from the Eerie. Those new episodes will be loaded up very soon. And speaking of, if you want to check out Voices from the Eerie, dropping, I think this Friday is the next episode, where you got myself and Greg talking about the first 5 episodes of Gargoyles with Greg and Jennifer and a special guest. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you once again. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let people know what you think about it, and as well as let everybody know what you think about it. Leave us a comment, a like, and leave us a 5-star review if you're listening to us on the audio version. Thanks for watching, thanks for participating, and thanks for listening here on the Spideydude Radio Network.